Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to talk about ITDR simplified for MSPs, services, as well as billing. We're lucky enough to have Gradient MSP on the line with us. So today we have Andrea from Gradient. She's the Technology Alliance Director.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
We also have Andrew from Gradient, who's the Sales Director.
Morning, everyone.
And then Ashley, myself, of course, the Director of Customer Success, as well as Garrett from YouAttest, the CEO.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Okay, so the agenda for today. So just went over the introductions. We're going to talk about the exciting new space for MSPs.
Oh, Ashley, are you showing your screen?
That I am on my end.
Okay. Everyone see the screen?
No, we don't see the screen yet.
Give me 1 second.
No worries. There we go. We see it. We see the screen.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Okay, so the introduction. So we're going to talk about the exciting new space for MSPs, ITDR, the MSP challenge, which is billing. What is Gradient MSP? YouAttest integrated with Gradient MSP. Of course, we're going to have a demo as well as Q&A. Take it away, Garrett.
Okay, so there's a bold new space for the MSPs, for both the MSPs and the MSSPs. Basically, think of those who are managing IT and managing IT security for the enterprises. Spaces are identity governance, known often as IGA, and a new space that Gartner's labeled and put products in called ITDR, Identity Threat Detection and Response. Next. First of all, why do you care? You care because there's a big market. There's a big market, and some number between 50 and 70% of all hacks start with identities. Identities are a problem. They're a problem for enterprises. A Palo Alto survey says 99% of cloud permissions are overly permissive. And then the last one that should have your attention as an MSP, almost 60% of staff of these enterprises out there can't hire the right staff for these. Okay, next. And we don't have to go on with this, and I leave this here for your own knowledge, but the hacks are exploding. And since I just said most hacks start with credentials and start with identities, us at the MSP level, us servicing the MSPs, have to do a better job of helping our customers in this space. And just remember what's really important. Just saying, hey, I added 2-factor, that's not enough. The problem is there's ghost accounts. There's all these excess privilege accounts. That's where your customers need help. Next. Now I can go through these one-on-one, but here's where the world is today. These are straight from the new Gartner reports, where people are saying, listen, it starts with identity, but then what we have to do is we have to quantify not just the authentication, but the authorization. That's the real key. That's where companies are really failing. They're failing in the concept of who has access to what, if they have access to much, and then what about segregation of duties? What about separation of identities from this person should only have in finance, but then they shouldn't be in sales? That is something that you as the MSP can start taking over, and that's what we built at YouAttest to give you that ability. Last on this slide, the most important concept in identity privilege is known as the principle of least privilege. That's NIST PRAC-6. That's exactly what all of these regulations are telling you you have to enforce. Next. Okay, now let me say where we're at and where we need to go. Okay. Enterprise, there are solutions out there other than YouAttest that do a great job of doing these attestations and doing this concept of privilege of principle of least privilege. Problem is, there are 7 figures, and that's why. And that, I think this number is over. I don't believe that 20% of the companies are doing this right. I believe the number, and I've talked to other MSPs, the number of customers are actually doing access control reviews. And that's the concept, taking a look at all my privileges and then understanding which ones are valid. I think that number is somewhere closer to 5 to 10%. And this is where you as the MSP can step up and say, listen, I understand the real problem. I understand that we have phony and ghost accounts and accounts. I understand that that the privileges are excessive. I have a tool and I have a practice that will solve this problem. And what happens? It makes their audits that much easier. Next. Okay, so what's in it for you? Okay, this is really important. What it does is it takes you up to the next level of value. You can look at your customer and say, I will help you. I know you're struggling. All these companies, especially the SMB and commercials, are struggling with the compliances. And these compliances just aren't for the big boys anymore. An elementary school is under HIPAA because it keeps PHI, personal healthcare information. If you're doing any business with the US government now, any business at all, they're under CMMC, and that's being applied to DoD and not. I can go down this list. Your retailers are under PCI DSS. What is that? If they're taking any credit card information. And if they're actually doing business with larger companies, most companies are expecting the smaller companies to not fail in the supply chain and thus be have a SOC compliance. All of these require an identity access review. And with YouAttest, you can run this report and you can make them compliant. Okay. Now, what do we bring for you? Here it is. It's a scalable platform. It runs and executes in any environment. You can train a single person in your enterprise and use them partially, and you'll be able to run this for all your customers. Okay, let's talk about how we build and how we integrate this into your system. Take it away, Ashley.
I'm actually going to pass it over to Andrea. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you very much. Let's see. All right, you can see my slides all right?
100%.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Super happy to be here today and to tell you a little bit more about Gradient MSP, what we're doing to help solve that MSP billing problem, but also to talk a little bit about our partnership with YouAttest and how excited we are to have them a part of our synthesized integration program. You heard a little bit from Garrett just now around IGA and least privilege access and all these great tools that YouAttest provides to help an MSP solve problems. And now with this partnership added to that is the ability to really solve this billing problem, this reconciliation problem, making sure that you're getting paid for what your vendors are charging you. So without further ado, like Ashley said previously, my name is Andrea Ayala. I'm the Director of Technology Alliances for Gradient MSP. And again, we have Andrew here, Andrew McKegg. He is our Director of Sales, and he's actually going to be taking you through a fun demo, showing you off the platform and all the fun things that Gradient MSP does. So quickly, I want to talk about who Gradient is, what we do, and why. Our why is that we believe accurate billing matters, and especially now in the time that we're in, where everything isn't certain and things are more expensive, products are getting more expensive. You're trying to make your business as profitable as possible, and with that comes a real review of all the services that your vendors are charging you, and making sure that you're getting paid for those. Our platform our synthesized platform allows you to visualize your PSA contracts in a whole new way. So with our billing module, we base this on a simple idea that all MSPs use a PSA. And if you don't know what a PSA is, it's a professional services automation tool that MSPs use to really simplify and manage their business, whether that be through ticketing or different queues, creating invoices and managing all their contracts. Everything is done in their PSA. Unfortunately, a lot of vendors who do create these integrations into PSAs, they're just pushing information into it. It doesn't really allow for the review or the processing, making sure that everything's correct. They're just straight pushing information. So where we come in and where we make a little bit of a difference, we're essentially a stopgap in between vendors like YouAttest and whatever PSA you want to use to help you manage your clients and your contracts in a better way. We allow for vendors to create integrations like the one we're talking about today to import usage into our platform and then over to your PSA. If there's not an integration, you'll be able to use our CSV feature as well to drag and drop some usage into our platform. PSAs are notoriously ill-equipped to help MSPs ensure that you're getting paid for what you're getting charged for. It's a huge waste of time and actually brings on a huge loss of revenue as well. In our platform, it's very easy to use, as you'll see in just a bit on the demo with Andrew, but you're able to audit, adjust, and update within our platform and have that right into your PSA, which is pretty cool. And we integrate into integrate with your favorite vendors. Gradient supports 9 of the most popular PSAs in the channel today. Some large ones like ConnectWise, Manage, Data Autotask, Kaseya, but then some new up and coming PSA vendors like Synchro, Halo, Pulseway. Any PSA vendor that you use, I'm sure we have an integration with. We were founded in November of 2020 and a little over 3 years now. We have over 850 MSP partners utilizing our platform, $7 million in unbilled revenue recovered on our platform, $2 billion of annual revenue reconciled across all the MSPs using our solution. And we save MSPs 7,500 hours monthly on that really annoying task of billing reconciliation. We're also SOC 2 certified and STAR Level 1 certified as well too, which I know is super important, especially for what we're talking about today. And just finally, before I kick it back to Garrett and Ashley, our core purpose with the billing module is to make this monthly manual task of billing reconciliation as easy as possible. We've completely simplified the process, giving you a single platform, which is what I'm showing you right here, to help you manage the monthly service invoices across all the different vendors in your stack, eliminating the need to have to go into YouAttest portal, into your PSA, every other vendor that you have going into their portals and then back into your PSA, saving a lot of time there, but also making sure that everything is correct. So you'll be able to see actual counts of usage and have that tie back directly into your portal. As more vendors get added into our synthesized integration program, you'll be able to add those on and be able to automate the usage of their customer accounts as well. But if there isn't an integration, like I mentioned before, we actually have a drag and drop CSV feature where you can essentially create your own integration and pull in usage from vendors who we don't have an integration with into our system. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing now and kick it back over to Ashley.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Give me 1 second. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, 100%.
Perfect. All right, so now I'm going to pass it back over to Garrett. So he's going to talk about YouAttest Explained, assuring access permissions.
Absolutely. So let's talk. So as I said, the problem is that people don't know what they're actually giving access to. That is a quantified problem, okay? You can ask your customers, MSPs out there, do you know all of your applications, who you're actually giving access to the data to? They don't. So what we did here at USS is solve this in a modern way. And we started first with what people are using for identities, okay? What they're using, and I'm sorry, next, What they're using is one of these IAM systems, always in almost exclusively cloud-based, with Active Directory still being prevalent. So we cover all of these. We cover all of these with a connector that literally integrates in seconds. Next. So YouAttest is cloud-based and connecting not in a matter of months, not in a matter of days, in minutes. These integrations take anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes to get them integrated into the identities. Next. So we take in these identities from these sources, and then we also take in the identities because they're healthcare, they're finance. Garrett, we haven't connected everything to our Okta. We haven't connected everything to our Azure AD. Okay, fine. We take in all this data. And what's really important is the data we're taking is not the PHI. What it is the metadata. It's the identity plus the groups and the roles that helps you determine who has access to what. So now you become the risk manager. Perfect. You're the risk manager, okay? And you're the MSP, and you have all the controls, which is what is the privileges that each one of these users have. You click a single button, next, and then a report goes out to all of the managers. And this is part and parcel of all those regulations that I discussed, that you, the manager of the Okta, the Azure AD, the Jump Cloud, the AD, you cannot attest to the roles. The attestation, as is written in the compliance, must be done by the managers and the business owners. That is, in English speak, that is the people who manage the actual users or manage the applications. And that's a real problem for these companies because they have to write spreadsheets and then have that person send an email back and say, I did this. No, this is all automated by YouAttest. So we can take into account for every privilege, and then those managers, they can certify, they can redelegate out, or they can just revoke the privilege. Finally, next, evidence is created. That's more audit speak. Evidence is actual proof in a tabulated, quantified fashion that the auditors look at and say, yes, all of these accesses have been reviewed. And that's exactly what is part and parcel included then in your SOX, in your PCI, in your HIPAA. You become the service that is able to provide this for your MSP customers, and they are paying tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for these reviews, and now you are providing the service. Okay, take it away, Ashley.
All right, so now I'm going to talk about how YouAttest integrates into Gradient MSP and quantifying IGA billing for the MSP. Okay, so YouAttest and the MSP. So what do we have? So we have a single dashboard for all of your customers. We have both POC and active, and it's super clean. You can easily just click into it, take the POC once they become an actual customer, move it to a live tenant. We amalgamate all the user counts to one total for YouAttest billing. We've got individual user counts for customer billing. And then for Gradient, we've got YouAttest integrated into Gradient MSP APIs. We have all MSP accounts that are sent to Gradient. We also have, which is the most important, the monthly consumption number sent to the Gradient portal via YouAttest. So now the fun part. So now we're going to talk about YouAttest and Gradient, the MSP demo. So I'm going to pass it off first to Cher and then to Andrew.
Perfect. Thank you, Ashley. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Okay, it's going to be the second one. All right. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So this is the Gradient portal with some seeded data. So and each card over here represents a customer, an MSP customer, and this is the service. So I'm gonna head over to the MSP section on the YouAttest side. So this is the MSP portal that you see over here. So these are all the customer for an MSP. You can get a bird eye view around the stats, like all tenants, live tenants, POC tenants, and also you can get an idea about the current monthly consumption of all of these MSP customers and the last month as well. So when it comes down to integration with Gradient, it's super simple. You head over to the billing integration, you click on Gradient. And over here, you see all of these tenants, but they are not yet connected with the Gradient portal. So I'm just going to go ahead and update the token. And I'm going to grab the token from the Gradient side. You go to integrations, and then you go to YouAttest. So I'm going to say continue setup. And then I'm just going to generate a token. So all you have to do is like copy this token, go back to your YouAttest MSP tenant and paste that and update. So once you have updated this, it has established the connection between Gradient and YouAttest MSP tenant. Now you see all of these customers that you have. So whatever customers you want to connect through Gradient, you can just check those and then just hit sync now. So now this initial authentication is complete. And what it does is it has established a connection, and these accounts are now connected with the Gradient side. So heading over to the Gradient side, if I say, so here, next. So you can see those two tenants, the customers that we have inside YouAttest, are now being pushed over to the Gradient side. I'm just going to do the mapping for both of these tenants. So one would be Dr. Jones based on the tenant I have. So it's going to be eOffice for Dr. Jones, and I can have Etex Softwares for AAD. So now the mapping is complete for both of these customers. I'm just going to hit next. And then I have to do the mapping for the service. The service that we have is YouAttest IGA. I'm just going to map over to a service which is security awareness and training inside the Gradient portal. So once this is done, you hit next and you say this is the mapping that you're fine with. You just hit finish. So once this is done, it's saying it's going to take 24 hours, but it doesn't take that long. It's going to do it like within a minute. It's going to refresh everything, and now Gradient is expecting from YouAttest to push those licenses over to the Gradient side. So now what we have is a portal for us to review everything. So I'm just going to go to that admin portal for the licenses. So over here we have all the companies and the ones which are like MSP integrated. So we have those over here. So the one that I was working on was Carshifts, and I'm just going to go inside view company, and you can see that two of those companies inside Karshiv MSP tenant are now connected. So all we will be doing from our end is update licenses every month. So you see over here the license that has been consumed. Then again, we are allowing this to be updated manually from our end for our customer services managers to update this. So you can like send 50 for the eOffice tenant, and for the AAD tenant, maybe you can send 100 licenses, or the one that you have on our end. So once this is done, I'm going to head over to the Gradient portal. Just going to go ahead and update. So the last updated, you would see that like for Initech software, which was mapped to eOffice, has like 100 license, and Dr. Jones Antiquities has like 50. So once this is done, we have done our part. We have pushed the licenses over to the Gradient side, and from here onwards, you guys can manage it from there. Thank you.
Well done, Cher. Yeah.
Thank you, Cher. So I'll take over from here and just kind of show everyone really what the Gradient side of things is actually going to look like. So fairly simple. I'll make it as complicated as possible, but I promise I can't make it that complicated. So now that we've synced in our license usage from YouAttest, what do you need to do next? So a couple quick things that I will mention. If you're setting up a Gradient account, if you're a new Gradient user, very simple. It's going to take you maybe 10 minutes if you're really trying to stretch it out. Logins can be done via either Google or Microsoft SSO. You also have the option to use a email magic link if you prefer. Once you've done that, your next step is to connect your PSA. So whichever of those 9 PSAs that Andrea had shown earlier, there's quick, simple steps to each of those. And from there, we're going to ingest all of the billing data that you have in your PSA at that point. From there, we actually restructure things. And the reason that we do that is there's an inherent problem with billing. Typically, when you're looking in your PSA, you're looking at the one contract for the one customer and all the different services that they're paying for from your business. When you look at your vendor, you're looking at all the services and you're looking at the individual customers that are adhering to those. So inherently, there's a problem between those two. They don't generally match up. We make it a little bit easier in that we now organize your data by the services that you have in your PSA. So I can actually click into any of these views and see the individual cards, which are the MSPs that are actually buying those services from you. You're going to see 2 numbers in this view. Number on the left represents what I'm actually currently billing out of my PSA. The number on the right is showing me what I'm actually paying for, the number of licenses I'm consuming from my vendor. So in this instance, if we're looking at this as YouAttest, I can take a couple of actions here. So I can look and see that the Paper Street Soap Company previously had 136 licenses last month. Looks like they added 4 staff in the last month, and we haven't updated our agreement in our PSA. So I could, if I was using nothing instead of Gradient, pop into my PSA, probably about 9 different button clicks, update that one count, and move on to my next customer. With Gradient, this makes it that much easier. Instead of going back and forth, I see that there's an increase in my license count. All I have to do is hit approve. You're going to see that card disappears. I do have the option to undo it if I hit it in error, but what that's done is actually written back to your PSA and updated your license count to the 140 in one button click. Now, it's great to be able to do that one by one. It's a little bit easier if you want to be able to do it in bulk action. So I can actually go through and even select all if I choose, and I can maybe deselect any counts that I go, you know what, I don't remember Laucha Air Freight losing 3 licenses last month. So I don't actually want to write over and, update that to 120, but I have the remainder of my customers that now show any updates. So I can do a quick visual check, make sure everything looks good. If there are any that stand out, obviously, again, you can deselect them and I can approve, right? It's going to do a quick double check, hit approve. We've now updated those 11 contracts in 2 button clicks, right? With all the accurate counts. As Cher had shown earlier, you might see a card that looks something like this. Now, this is a new revenue card. This is the instance where maybe you added a new tenant into your YouAttest portal, but you didn't actually add that service into your contract in your PSA. This is showing you now that you have 2 licenses provisioned, but you're not actually billing for those licenses at this point. If you do want to add them to your agreement, you can simply click add. You can choose the actual agreement from your PSA that you want to add that to, right? Ensure your counts are accurate, hit assign, updates, and away you go. So very, very simple that you can do that and update all of your counts for all your customers, whether you have 10 different customers or you have 100 different customers. You can do it in a few button clicks, and it makes it very, very simple for you to go through, update your counts, eliminates that manual billing process of bouncing back and forth and going between different lines and trying to follow, using your finger on 2 different screens between spreadsheets. Makes it very, very easy to see any discrepancies and ensure that you're not going to be overbilling your customers, or more importantly, you're not underbilling your customers and leaving any potential revenue on the table. That is really the extent of it. It is, like I mentioned, a very, very simple, very straightforward system. Before I move on here, I'm going to just show everyone kind of what the pricing looks like. I did put in the chat box there the link to get signed up. If you do want to test out Gradient, you can do that. If you wanted to do a bit of a deeper dive, myself and my team here over at Gradient, we're happy to take you through one-to-one demos, do a bit of a deeper dive into individual use cases. We'll throw up a email address that you can reach out to, and we can get that scheduled up. But let's quickly talk pricing on this. So very, very simple. Not a typo, I promise. We do actually have a free tier to our product. When we looked at how to price a billing product, it's one of those tricky things. Everyone wants to be able to get their hands on and try something out, but billing isn't a typical tool where you can just test it out for a week and you're going to know whether or not it works. Something that you do once a month. So for us, setting up a free tier to allow you to get hands-on, it's essentially not a time-bound trial. You can test this out, and it does include a good number of the features. One of the most important ones is you can use one of your vendor integrations on that free tier. So your YouAttest integration is going to cost you $0 a month right now. So you can get in, set up your Gradient account, set up the YouAttest integration, test it out and see what you think, and actually try this for yourself. $0 a month. It does also include, as Andrea had mentioned earlier, that CSV import. So if you use another vendor that maybe we don't integrate with today, you can still set up that CSV import profile. It's effectively going to allow you to create your own integration. Once you set up that profile, same as what Cher had shown earlier in terms of that mapping, you can go back and in any kind of month after and just drag and drop your CSV, select that profile you've already created, and it's going to apply that mapping that you've created in the previous setup there. So very, very easy once you've done that. Now, if you decide this is for me, I want to use Gradient to actually reconcile my entire vendor stack, that's where you move into our paid tiers. Now we have launch, grow, and scale. This is all dependent on the number of active accounts that you have in your PSA. So if you're a smaller MSP just getting started, you might fall into our launch tier, which is $199 per month. And it allows you to, if you've got anywhere between 1 and 30 active accounts in your PSA, you can go through, set up unlimited vendor integrations then. You can unlimited CSV profiles and up to 10 vendor integrations. You do get a dedicated onboarding with a dedicated success manager. You get things like early access to new features, all of that good stuff. And again, depending on the size of your business, as you go up, the cost does go up a little bit incrementally. So if you're 31 to 150 accounts, 150 to 500, or if you are a substantially sized MSP and you have 500 plus accounts, let us know and we'll work out custom pricing for you at that point. The only other thing that I quickly want to mention before I hand it back to Ashley here is even on the basic side of things, we don't want to throw anyone to the wolves. We understand that this is a new process and change is scary. So we do want to make sure that we're here to help out. So we do offer a free 30-minute getting started session with our success team to ensure that if you've got questions, you want to walk through, individual use cases, just kind of one-off things, we're here to help out with that. Obviously, on the paid tiers, you have your dedicated success manager. If you want to sit down and do a handful of onboarding sessions with them, we're happy to help and make this as simple as possible. And that is all I have for you. So I'm going to pass it back to Ashley here, and we'll wrap things up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. 1 second. All right, here's the email of how to get a hold of Gradient. So if anyone wants to jot that down really quick. And now for our Q&A. So I am going to let Garrett share his screen, and we're going to take all the questions that have come in.
Okay. Share screen. How about I show the screen? Are we seeing our wonderful faces?
We are.
Fantastic. Take it away.
Okay, so first question I have for Garrett. What type of FTE and how many do I need to run YouAttest as an MSP?
That's a great question. I was just answering that at a symposium yesterday. That's where we're unique, YouAttest. We do not see our MSPs that take us on as adding any additional staff to support YouAttest. If you have someone who is at all versed in a product like Okta or Azure AD, which are the most too popular, and we cover the other ones, they can be trained in an hour to do our product, and that is a true statement. And therefore we see it as a fraction. You can add revenue to you can add value for a fraction of one of your existing FTEs to do this new and needed functionality, which is basically identity governance. That's what I say. I say a fraction, actually.
Okay, perfect. This question is either for Andrea or Andrew. So what other products is Gradient integrated into?
Yeah, I can quickly field that one. So there's a good number of integrations, and we're launching more every month. So as opposed to running through a list, if you pop over to just meetgradient.com, MEET gradient.com, website's listed right there, and just click on the integrations tab at the top. It's going to list all of the direct integrations with vendors that we have like YouAttest. but it will also list any of those CSV import integrations that you can set up. Not to fear though, if you do have a vendor that maybe you see is not listed on that CSV integration import, but you do get a CSV from that vendor, you have the ability to export a CSV. Any vendor that you can get a CSV from of your usage, we can do an integration with from that CSV integration. So really simple. It's pretty wide reaching at that point. But obviously the direct integration is a great way to go. We'd love to have an integration with every single vendor on the face of the earth, but it's just not a possibility. So as a big catch-all, we've got that CSV option as well.
Awesome. So Cher, does YouAttest have anything for Salesforce?
Yes, so we have built the integration with Salesforce through our middleware APIs that we had exposed recently. So we have completed our integration with Salesforce, and hopefully next week we're going to be launching that on production, through which you can audit your Salesforce environment based on the roles and profiles of the user. So that is coming up next week.
Yeah, and I'm going to add with what Andrew said for YouAttest holds true. We can audit any resource because we have a great new connector, which as Cher just talked about, goes into Salesforce, but any resource can be exported and imported into our product, and customers are doing that extensively. We have one customer that imports 65 megabytes of data into our cloud, into their cloud tenant, to do these attestations, and it is the workflow that saves them all the time. Next.
And Andrew, how many customers can Gradient scale to?
I don't think there's not a limit. So we offer the ability for you to have 2 clients in there or 1,000. It's really up to you. And we, as of today, we serve MSPs who are, a 2-employee shop, have, the owners doing the billing, or some larger MSPs as well who have a whole team behind them managing their billing and accounts. So we support everyone. We're open ecosystem.
And just to quickly add to that as well, if you are a larger MSP and you have 500, 600 different customers that you're trying to reconcile, the view that I'd shown earlier is our card view. We do also have what we term as our list view, and it's basically a condensed view for you. Sometimes a little bit easier. People prefer different kind of ways of looking at it. If you're interested in something like that, email that howdy@meetgradient. We'll take you through one-to-one and show you all the different options, because it does scale very easily to substantial MSPs. And like anything, if you're a bigger business, you've got more licenses to reconcile. Billing reconciliation is a bigger and bigger job. So the more that you can automate and streamline that process, if you can get a couple of days back of work time in your month, that's invaluable.
Perfect. Cher, so what about YouAttest? How much can YouAttest scale?
So for now, when it comes down to how many we can ingest, is 1 million is what we have tested so far, and we are expanding and going into the 2 million tests. For that, we have to scale up our infrastructure, procure some servers. So that is something which is something that we are working on. But 1 million identities is something that we have tested, and we are able to ingest, and we are able to take care of 1 million identities.
Yeah, we've not only tested, we have a customer that does access reviews and has 850,000 roles. So that's a true statement Absolutely. Of how many this thing is scaled. We rewrote the entire product in 2022 to scale. So that was that was his. All right, how are we doing there, Ashley? I think we got our contacts up and.
Yep, I think we're ready to wrap up. So I just wanted to especially thank Andrea and Andrew for your time today and hosting this webinar with us. Again, all of our information for Gradient and YouAttest is on the screen, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks a lot.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Gradient. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.